I don't normally hug everybody, but it seems like Ruben started something, and now it's just so. You guys were hugging. It's just the way it's going to go. So, our next speaker is a food consultant, nutrition analyst, educator, and an entrepreneur from Vancouver. After completing her master's in food culture and communications at the University of Gastronomic Science in Italy, she moved to the UK to teach cooking to vulnerable communities with the Jamie Oliver Food Foundation. Impressed by the range of innovative ideas around food and social impact that she had witnessed in Europe, she created an organization called Food Connections to bring these initiatives to Canada. In May of this year, she launched the first ever Feeding the 5,000 event in Canada, a global communal feasting event made from surplus wasted food. Please welcome Elaine Cheng.
Hi, thank you. I don't have any hugging in my presentation, don't worry. So I'm not sure about your family, but in my family culture, food plays a huge role. And there would be a lot of food at every celebration, every festival, and also a lot of leftovers every time. And my parents never actually taught me to pack my leftovers. My dad would always just say, tomorrow we'll get new food and fresh quality food. I think what changed in me is when I moved to Italy. I studied my Master's of Food Communications, and we got to taste some of the best products all over the world. Not only that, we got to learn about food education on a different level. Food education is not really just about celebrity chefs or gourmet cooking, but it's about relationships. Relationships to our land, to our food, to the producers, the story behind food. So when we see food as more than just a commodity in which we're entitled to having, but rather as a community in which we belong, we start to change our mindset and see food and respect it more. So with abundance, we often take things for granted. Same goes with food, and that's how food waste develops. Never in history have we had this much abundance of food as we do today. And it's pretty cool because when you look inside a dumpster, you see an enormous amount of treasures, I call it. Perfectly edible food. You see the carrots and the melons, they look perfectly fine. It's just the shape is a little bit larger or not the right shape for the supermarkets. And the amount of food waste that happens in restaurants, it's enormous. It's just food dollars going down the drain. So this quote really resonated with me and got me really passionate about this topic. It just amazes me that 1 billion hungry people can be fed on some of the food we waste. And I've always had a heart for the marginalized in our city, and it just didn't make sense to me how we're all trying to feed the city, feed the poor with the 50-plus community kitchens, and yet we're also wasting perfectly edible food. And so it's not really just an issue of charity, but more of justice, because we do have enough food to go around. So Feeding the 5,000 also created this diagram, and it allows us to think a bit more about food disposal. So we often think of it from the bottom up the pyramid. We would dispose of the food, and if we remember, we'll compost it. But we want to think of it first on the first level as reducing food waste. How can we reduce the amount of food we throw out and channel it to those in need? Food waste actually happens on a large scale on farms. And I had the opportunity to speak with some farmers, and one particular one told me that last year they lost 90% of all their crops due to a hailstorm, because a hailstorm dented some of their apples. So it allows us to really think about the cosmetic import regulations about what's allowed into the grocery stores and how it needs to fit a certain size, shape, curvature. So as consumers, do we really get a choice? As shoppers, what we see on our shelves are already filtered through. Tristram is the founder of an organization called Feedback, which is the head organization of Feeding the 5,000. And Feeding the 5,000 is a global, worldwide event that happens spans 5 continents and numerous countries around the world. And this past May, we launched the very first one in Canada, in our city, Vancouver, at the Vancouver Art Gallery. So Feeding the 5,000, if you're not familiar, it's a huge feast to all using surplus food or food that would have gone to waste. So if you were not there, I have some video highlights of the event. We brought together people of all different ages. I think there should be a video, but it's okay. We placed ourselves right in the center of downtown Vancouver. There you go. At the art gallery, so that we can serve the working professionals in the businesses around. And we also invited children. There's the high school students were the volunteers, and also university students created these visuals. And we served 6,050 portions of food that would have gone to the garbage, and just all donated fresh food again. So some of the items we received, we did 5 courses, so we received a lot of marinated beef skewers, and we're like, what are we gonna do with that? So the chef made it into beef sliders, and with a lot of the bakery buns we got, like we made ciabatta buns. We also received a lot of tofu puffs, because tofu is a high-risk item of going bad quicker. And so we repurposed it into 2 courses. One's a savory and one's a dessert. And there's no problem getting any free bread in the city, as some of you know. So we made a chocolate chip bread pudding. So it was a really successful event, I feel. And we got people to even dream about what would Vancouver look like if there was no food waste. So we had a mural there. We also connected people to organizations in the city doing something about rescued food. So Quest is highlighted here. And we also, one of our most popular booths was right in the middle of the event, and Farm to Food Bank brought over 1,000 pounds of fresh farm produce that they gleaned. And it allowed us as consumers to really think about what we look for when we go shopping. We look for aesthetics and perfection and attractive appeal. And so this was one of my favorite booths. So through this event, we want to inspire people to take action using their own skill set. So it was really amazing because some groups of UBC students came up to me and they wanted to create an app that would connect the gap between food donors and food recipients. And some people launched a campaign that they want to bring this, the ugly vegetable thing, to Vancouver. So my organization, Food Connections, also create events in the city to kind of allow people to think about their relationship to food in a different way. So we did some gleaning trips on the farm and rescued 100 pounds of beans. And up there is a picture of dining in a dumpster. So, surprisingly, food waste happens around 50% in our own homes. And so Love Food, Hate Waste is a campaign that Metro Vancouver launched kind of around the same time as we did the Feeding the 5,000 to connect people to tips on how to practically reduce food waste in their own lives. And I think I'm done. Thank you.